Hello and welcome to the Vinyl Sanctuary. My name is Christian and I hope that you will join me in taking refuge in records. So I'm delighted to be with you today to present my ranking of the year 1973. So as is usual, I'll give a quick overview of how I do things here on the channel in terms of my ranking vids. It will be a bit of a recap for those who are already acquainted with the channel, and it will be a bit of an introduction for people who may have only just happened upon me. So what I'll be doing today is I'll be looking at studio albums that I have in my own vinyl collection that were released in the year 1973. So I don't include live albums, compilations, EPs, anything like that. I like to stick just to studio albums. What I've also been doing for the 1970s is I've been looking at 15 albums per year. So again, there'll be 15 to go through today, and they've all been ranked from 15 up to 1, which is proving every year to be tougher and tougher to do, but I've given it my utmost and I have endeavoured to put them in an order that I feel is in keeping with where I am at the moment with each album. So apart from that, what I tend to do, again, this is more for people who aren't familiar with my channel, is I will just show you the front and back cover of the record, mention a few favourite tracks, and then any information about the album that just pops into my head while I'm talking. Then I tend to rattle off a bit of info as well and hope for the best I've remembered it correctly. Because this is all totally unscripted. It's just me talking to the camera. So I'm never quite sure how long they're going to come in at, but you can expect the video to at least be an hour, and you'll see from the runtime when it's recorded how long it is, but they are getting a little bit shorter. And I think that's because I've only been looking at 15 albums for the 1970s rather than 25, which is what I was doing for the 1980s. So whether you think that's good or whatever, then, that's completely up to the audience member. But the primary reason why I've only been doing 15 for the 1970s is purely a practicality, in that I don't have as many albums in my vinyl collection from the 70s as I do the 80s. It's just as simple as that, really. I've got a healthy collection, but it is still growing in certain decades, I would say. And my 80s is pretty well stocked, although there are still albums to get in that decade. But the focus here now is for the 1970s. So the only other thing to mention is that, again, if you're new to the channel, this is part of an ongoing series that I'm doing at the moment. So I will pop links to my videos for 1970, 71 and 72 into the description box for the video here that you're watching right now. So I think that pretty much covers everything. And the only other thing that I do like to say to people is if you enjoy what I've done today, then please do give me a thumbs up. Please do comment as well and let me know what you think of my top 15. Let me know if I've missed anything out or whether there should have been something included. I'll always let you know whether or not it's the case that perhaps I just don't own that particular record, in which case it's not eligible for inclusion. I'm only interested in showing things that I actually own. So I'm aware that there's a lot of landmark classic albums out there for all the years I've been covering which I don't own yet. But, I only like to look at what I've got. So I'm always open to recommendations. I've actually tried to actively acquire a few records as well for the collection that people have highlighted to me. So, please do comment, because I do love the interaction in the community. And I also love seeing as well what other music people are into that are tuning in to me. So I hope that you enjoy what I'm about to do. I'm looking forward to doing it. So we'll get started. Okay, so coming in at number 15 is a relatively new album for me, but I've enjoyed it enough that it's actually crept in over quite a few albums that I already own in the collection that I would say I've had longer with in terms of a relationship. But there's just something about this album that has made me come back to it a lot since I've bought it. I've listened to it many, many times, and I'm just still trying to process various aspects of what it's about. It is in essence like a collage of sound album. It's very experimental, and I think what I'm really impressed about is the fact that this is a record now that is over 50 years old, just in terms of what's on display in terms of musicality, experimentation, production, the vision of what the artist is going for, the band I should say, what they're striving for. But I'm going to show the record now because it's in the corner here and it's giving me a bit of a headache. I do apologise in advance. It's got a really sort of jarring visual image on the back. It's one of these sort of, I don't even know how you describe it, like a spiral effect. So for anybody who's particularly au fait with 73, you might already know which album I'm talking about. So we're starting off with some krautrock today, experimental music, coming over from Germany, of course. We've got Faust with the Faust tapes from 1973. So that's the front there with all that small print there presented like a newspaper sheet. And then on the back, please do, don't adjust your sets, but this is going to be a little bit much maybe for some people, and I do apologise for that. There's the back. So it's really, really difficult to choose favourite tracks on this thing, because for me it is just a piece of art in that it needs to be experienced in its entirety. It's not a record that you can just sort of cheerily pick a couple of tracks off. They're not really songs as such, they're more kind of like interludes, musical vignettes, whatever words you want to use to describe these sort of like, it's like a cut and paste effect almost, to an extent, I would say. But the more I listen to it, the more hypnotic I find the record to be, and that is, I would say, a very apt piece of graphic design to be using there, because there is quite a hypnotic quality to that, although at the same time there's something quite jarring and actually quite discombobulating as well, which I do think is in keeping with the music on the record. That's just my own thoughts. It's a bit of a shame here that this is a bit stained up. You can see there on the front there is some staining there, but that was actually considered when I bought it from the person that I bought it from. They were very happy to knock quite a few quid off the asking price because of that. They actually volunteered to do that because they could see me having a good old look at it. So I was aware of Faust. I am trying to get a little bit more into krautrock. It is a genre that I'm still, I would say, dipping my toe into, but what I've heard of it, the likes of Can and Armandul and Noi and bands like that, this record here, I'm very much enjoying it. So I wanted to get it in here for the top 15 because I know it's an album that I'm going to continue to have some time with. In terms of a track, like I say, you do need to experience it in full. So if you're into experimental stuff, then please do give it a try. But there is like an interlude on here that's called, or has been given the name, Flashback Caruso. I think that's more in keeping with a CD reissue of the record, and that's probably about 4 minutes long, and that's probably the closest thing to what you would say is like a conventional song or piece of music. All the things are just kind of experimental, like I said, sonic collage, really. Very, very interesting stuff, and a record that I know that I will keep continuing to come back to. It's two sides of music, obviously. It's a single LP, and both of those sides are technically untitled. So starting us off there today, we've got the Faust tapes by Faust. Okay, and I'm really, really happy to be putting that down, so it's making my eyes go a little bit funny. So if they go like really, really wide for a moment, it's because of that. Okay, so moving on. We're going to something completely different now, quite a world away from Faust. Well, to be honest, I think everything else I'm going to be showing here now will be a world away from what I've experienced of Faust anyway. We've got some straight up traditional country rock here, and that is in the shape of Gram Parsons. And as you can see here on the cover, it is Gram Parsons with Emmylou Harris, who is a wonderful, wonderful singer. I love how their voices do sound together. And this is Gram Parsons here with GP. So another thing that I didn't mention before during my introduction, again for people that are new to the channel, is whenever I've got a gatefold, I will always show the gatefold off. So we can see there we've got a great image there. I'll always show the gatefold off, and if the inner sleeve, if it's intact or has got anything of interest or lyric sheets or anything, then I'll show those off as well. That looks to be just a plain white inner sleeve on that one. So yeah, that's GP there. I did give it a little play again just in preparation for this ranking video, because it's so difficult putting these in order. And I will say, when I get a little bit further up to the top three, similar to other years, they could all be number one, but When I get closer to that, I'll explain why I've ranked them the way that I have. But this is a really lovely traditional country rock album. So, of course, this is Graham Parsons, fame of the Flying Burrito Brothers, and, we've been in the Byrds as well. So this was an album, he went on to have a solo career after he'd left the Flying Burrito Brothers. So he teamed up here with Emmylou Harris, who, is an absolute icon within the country world as well. Great singers together, and there is so many tracks on here that I absolutely love. So I'll name a few for you. I do love She, which closes side 1. We'll keep it up here so you can see. Big Mouth Blues to close is one that I quite like a lot as well. The New Soft Shoe, I would say, on side 2. And I'll just name one more that I do like a lot, which is, yes, I do like Cry One More Time on side 2 as well. That's a nice one. Yeah, there's quite a few on here. It's difficult to only choose 3, but I always end up breaking my own rule. I'll give a shout out as well till We'll Sweep Out the Ashes in the Morning, which is on side 1. Very, very nice song as well. And as you'd expect, with Graham Parsons, he's got a very warm, a very, very warm, sort of almost quite honeyed voice in some aspects, but then other times it can sound a little bit gruff as well when he needs to roughen his voice up when he chooses to do that. Always lyrically interesting, and just beautiful instrumentation if you like your country rock. Great use of guitar, percussion, great rhythms here to the music. So that's a very enjoyable record for me. That is Graham Parsons with Emmylou Harris with GP in my top 15 for 1973. Okay, so now we're moving over to, we're staying in the US here, so we've moved from Germany to the US, but now we're going over specifically to Cleveland, Ohio, and we are going over to one of my favourite power pop artists of all time, a group that for me, I wish that they'd survived longer than they did. They only produced 4 studio albums, but they were only together for a very short time. So one could argue that they were prolific in their output. But that band, and I do love the design of this particular album cover. We've got here the Raspberries with side 3. So really great power pop here coming from Eric Carmen, who, as we all know, went on to have an incredibly successful career commercially as a solo artist. Raspberries, not as commercial, although they had a million selling hit single in Go All The Way, which was on their debut album, just called Raspberries. But this is side 3, released in 1973. This is the 3rd album. They had 2 albums that came out in 1972, which was the self-titled debut and Fresh as well. So yeah, this is just great. I just love the cutout there with the way that they've got, the little box of raspberries there together like that. So then what happens here is you open this up here, and you can see there, the spoon with the raspberries. And then what we do here, bear with me 1 second, is, yeah, here we go. I'm trying to do it on camera without it all coming out. This here sort of comes away a little bit, and then you pull out the actual inner. So as you can see there very cleverly, it's been shaped to fit in with the design of the cover, and you just get some really good photographs there of the band. So there's a really good picture there of Eric Carmen. Yeah, Jim Bonfanti, I think, still in the group at this point as well. Wally Bryson, he was a constant for the Raspberries along with Eric Carmen. So yeah, this is just superb record, this one. So yeah, if you're into your straight up power pop, so lovely harmonies, great use of guitar, jingle jangle, but with a bit of a rock edge to it as well. I'd say it is probably Raspberry's most consistent rock album, which is probably one of the reasons I do go for it as much as I do. It's just got a lovely sound, a lovely warm vibe to it. It is a song that it sort of ticks a lot of boxes for me, in that it satisfies the power popper inside me. I do love the kind of the slightly slower stuff as well. I just love the song on here, On the Beach, which is fantastic. Yes Tonight, which is the opening track. I don't know what it is about the word tonight, but it just seems to really inspire really brilliant power pop songs, the word tonight. And there's just something about it that must just light up power poppers the world over. It's just one of those words that just seems to be part of the power pop lexicon, and it's always used to brilliant effect. It's got Ecstasy on here as well, which is a really famous Raspberry song. That's on side 2. Money Down, which finishes the album off, is very, very good. And Hard to Get Over a Heartbreak is maybe, one of the more melodic, I wouldn't say slightly slower songs because they're all quite rocking on this, but it's just a great showcase for Eric Carmer's songwriting ability. But his backing band is superb as well. So if you're into your power pop, good ringing guitars, strong harmonies, then please do check out Side 3 by Raspberries. Not my favourite by this band, but this is a very, very good record indeed. And at some point, I probably will be doing on the channel a Raspberries studio album ranking, because I do have all four of their albums in my collection. So that's maybe something for another time. So there we go, Side 3, Raspberries. Okay, so moving on now to, this is a really cool album for me, this one. It's an artist that I'm really sort of getting into on a much deeper level. I would say that my relationship with this artist has been maybe for about maybe just shy of a decade. I'm not really sure, to be honest, in terms of really getting into him and his band. I'd been aware of him for over 20 years. I mean, when I used to work at my local record shop, there was a couple of tracks by this guy that the boss would play when the shop, was empty, which didn't happen often, but every now and again, maybe just before we were about to open up, he would stick, the odd song on by this chap, and it was usually the stuff that he was doing that was more of a doo-wop vein. But yeah, I just continue to be really, really startled and astonished by just how brilliant this music is. Jazz fusion, blues, prog, there's all kinds in this. So I'll just get on with showing it you. So the record here I'm talking about is Overnight Sensation by the Mothers of Invention, which is obviously Frank Zappa's band. So I'll just take this out of the crinkly wrap there, and you can see it a little bit closer. And yeah, I got this copy here for a pretty good price. I'm not sure if it's to do with that up there that's been stuck on it there. This is Overnight Sensation up there at the top, but really, really strange artwork. It's a bit of a trip looking at the artwork there, to be honest. And then we've got another gatefold here as well. Got a really good cheesy photo there of Mr. Zappa. He looks cheeky there, doesn't he? Cheeky there picture. And yeah, it's just a great band. I mean, I'm still really, as I say, my journey with Zappa, I think, is going to be something that goes on for a long, long, long time to come. At least I'm hoping so. I always try to acquire his albums when I'm out in the wild, when I'm hunting for vinyl. Sometimes I come across them and they are super expensive. Other times I've struck really lucky and got them at good prices. I think I only paid about £10 for this when I got it. And this is just a white inner on that one. I'm not sure if that's a replacement. I'm sure there's a subscriber in particular who'll be able to tell me, who's a massive Zappa fan, whether that's an original inner or not. But yeah, let's get to the music. So let's look inside again first. So yeah, Zappa's got a brilliant, brilliant band on here. He's got George Duke, keyboards and synth, Jean-Luc Ponty violin, baritone violin. He's got the Underwoods on here, both Ian and Ruth. Marimba vibes percussion, Ian on flute, clarinet, alto and tenor sax. Got Zappa himself on guitar and vocals, Bruce Fowler trombone, Tom Fowler on bass, Ralph Humphrey on the drums, and Sal Marquez on trumpet and vocals. You do also have on here as well, and I don't think that they were credited because Ike Turner didn't want them to be credited. I think that's the story. I think Jesse will correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think Ike Turner had heard what the album sounded like because the Ikettes had got involved, which was the singing group that Tina Turner was in, and I don't think he liked what he was hearing. And although Tina Turner and the Ikettes are on it, singing, performing, I don't think they're actually officially credited. So you can certainly hear the Ikettes on this when it's playing through. Yeah, I'm just having a look on here. Yeah, there's no mention here, I don't think. Engineers, yeah, remix, studio, technicians, and otherwise. Yeah, so that was just a little bit of interesting trivia. But yeah, I just really, really enjoy this album. I just think because it takes so many musical detours and it sounds fresh. Again, one of those albums that for me, it just blows my mind that it's over 50 years old. There's just so much going on in the mix with the music. I mean, lyrically, yes, there is a preoccupation with one of, I would say, Zappa's main points of interest throughout his life, which was sex, and he does go into it in various ways. In terms of how he addresses the subject throughout the lyrics, and I think sometimes with Zappa, one of the things that can take people out of his vision and what he's about is that he can descend at times into lyrics that are seem to be quite juvenile, almost like toilet humor, sort of gross out comedy in some respects. But I always feel that again, because I'm still learning about Zappa, that a lot of what he does is just pure satire. I think he just opened himself up to take pot shots at various aspects of society. I think he saw himself as a satirist, really, and wasn't afraid to kind of go for various groups, organisations, anything that he maybe thought reeked of hypocrisy. Then he would go for it. So that's kind of all I want to say on the lyrical front. But we've got some great Zappa tracks on here. Camarillo Brillo is one that I enjoy a lot. I'm the Slime. 50/50 is good. Dirty Love, I do enjoy that one. Zappa's vocal on there. Zombie Wolf as well, I should mention, as being one of my favourites. But yeah, I think this is an album that amongst Zappa fans, Mother's fans, it is regarded as one of his better albums, I would say, although that is saying something given, the sheer prolific output of Zappa in his lifetime. I mean, there is dozens and dozens of albums there to wade through and to absorb. So I'm still making my way through the journey with Mr. Zappa, but I've got quite a few in my collection now, and I am very pleased to have Overnight Sensation in there for 1973. So yeah, I'm happy with that one. And I've named there a few tracks in particular that I do really enjoy. But that for me is a good listen. There are again other Zappa albums that I do prefer that I've listened to so far, but that one for me is definitely enjoyable and it sounds great as well. Okay, right. So we're definitely moving on again into something totally different. We're sort of flip flopping again quite a lot, which tends to happen on my videos. Genre to genre. This is different again. A very somber record, I would say. One that for me has taken on more emotional resonance over the years. It's an album that I've been listening to since my teens, but I only really feel now as a man, in my early 40s, that I'm kind of really beginning to appreciate the artistry of it, without wanting to sound too pretentious. But I do feel this is an album that has grown in stock for me within this particular artist's output. It was always a record years ago that maybe I didn't listen to as much, I would say, compared to other albums that he'd done. But this one now, I find myself coming back to quite a lot. And that record is Berlin by Lou Reed. And I know that this was a record, I believe, that Lou Reed himself was very, very proud of. I think it had its critics at the time when it was released back in 1973. But the impression that I've always got from the material that I've read on Lou Reed, and I have read a lot on him, that this was a record that I think had a real personal meaning to him. I think it was something that he was very proud of. I know as well, I believe that when he first saw that front cover, the way it had been rendered, that it made him cry because of how it made him feel in terms of that concept being achieved. I'd say it is a concept album, very, very heavy themes as you would expect with Lou Reed. There's various sorts of abuse within the lyrics, drug themes as you would expect as well. But musically, I think it's very, very powerful. It's certainly not a cheery album. That it has to be said. It's not an album that you're going to put on if you want to kind of rock out, and sort of turn your brain off to things. It's a record that I think is challenging. It makes you think. It's very deep as well, but it is an album that I am continuing to come back to a lot. And as I said, as I'm getting older, I feel like I am beginning to appreciate it all the more. So I'll just take the record out here because it's a little bit easier for my old eyes to read the tracks for you. So favourite tracks. Yeah, I mean, Old Jim is one that I think is a really powerful song within the concept of the record. Caroline Says as well is excellent, and that continues the theme of Lou Reed writing songs that ends in the word says. He did that throughout his career. How Do You Think It Feels is brilliant. Lady Day, of course. Got the self-titled track, which is excellent as well. So I've already named more than three, but it is a brilliant record. Got Caroline Says on side 2. Oh yeah, and I mean, gosh, yeah, I mean that entire side to the kids, the bed, and then it ends with sad song, which I don't know. I'd be interested to find out what people think in the comments, but I think that sad song is one of Lou's best songs. I really, really do throughout his career, both solo and as the Velvet Underground, part of that band. I really think sad song is quite an astonishing song, certainly to close the album with. Just think in terms of what he was striving for with that track. Very, very important song, a very important album. But yeah, just be aware with that one. Probably not an album to get you into Lou Reed, to get you started. I would say this is maybe one to get into at a later stage. I mean, I've been listening to Lou Reed for many, many years now, and I do have a healthy number of his albums on vinyl. I've not got them all yet, and there is still one in particular that I'm really, really after, which is a bit of a sizable omission, but maybe one day I'll grab it. But yeah, I'm again very happy to have this one. I think it's an excellent album, and again, one that I do feel that I will continue to keep coming back to. But maybe not one for the uninitiated to start with. Maybe something like Transformer would be a better entry point. Just my opinion. If anybody else wants to make an opinion on where to start with Lou, then please do pop it into the comments. So there we go. There's Berlin by Lou Reed. Okay, right. So next up, we are going over to the UK now, and we're going over to a band who are not located not all that far from me, really. I'm just always astonished whenever I listen to this band, just because of how brilliant they are. I mean, there's a lot of brilliant music here. Don't get me wrong for this year, but this group in particular, the four members at this time are just exceptionally talented. Every single one of them. There is no weak link in the chain. They're all brilliant songwriters, very similar to Queen in that regard. Just all brilliant at what they do, and great voices, amazing lyrics, so witty, clever, funny. Yeah, just a band that really make me smile. Great art rock, straddling different genres. Playing around with the form. Great at doing pastiche and things like that. So yeah, Northwest lads, very famously operating out of Strawberry Studios in Stockport. So I am here talking about the band 10cc with their self-titled debut album from 1973. And there's the four brilliant members that I've just been talking about. So we've got Godley and Cream here, who went on to have a career of their own as a duo. So there's Kevin Godley, got Lol Cream, and I absolutely love, in particular, the work that Cream does on this record. I just think he absolutely shines on this one, as they all do, but Cream in particular is brilliant. We've got the amazing Graham Gouldman down here, a wonderful, wonderful songwriter, and then we've got Eric Stewart too. So yeah, I really do love this album so much. Yeah, it's just a plain inner on there as well. For me, in a lot of ways, it's kind of, I mean, this might be an interesting point, whether people agree with it, I don't know, but I don't really want to compare them to the Mothers or to Zappa or anything, because I'm not saying that, but what I feel with 10cc is that they're almost like, they have got that satirical kind of bent to them. Like they definitely have fun with what they're doing, but there is a seriousness underpinning it as well, which I think was the case with Zappa. But I think with 10cc, you get these really clever lyrics, really witty, as I said, taking different musical forms. So in this case, a song like Donna, which for me is really, really doo-wop indebted, which Zappa did all the time. Clearly a fan of that genre, and I adore doo-wop music as well. So you get Donna on here, which is just brilliant. Really great, catchy doo-wop styled song. Then you've got a song on here which opens up, Rubber Bullets, which is like this brilliant Beach Boys pastiche with amazing lyrics. You really need to listen to the lyrics of that. Great catchy tune. Just sounds like something the Beach Boys would have done. And then elsewhere, you've just then got these really brilliant arty rock songs, just really clever. The Dean and I absolutely love. The Hospital song, yeah, Johnny Don't Do It is excellent as well. So yeah, for me, I think with this band, I'm always just really, really impressed by their cleverness, but they're not clever in a way that makes me feel, that they're basically, that they're arseholes or anything with it. It's actually like a really endearing display of cleverness. Like, it's not off-putting in any way, is what I'm trying to say. I'm probably not doing a very good job of it, but I just always find myself really looking forward to putting a 10cc album on, whether it's this or, sheet music or whatever, the original soundtrack, Bloody Tourists, How Dare You, they have got just some truly brilliant, Deceptive Bends as well, just brilliant albums in their discography. And I just think that, yeah, for me, they're just a band that should be talked about a lot more. And I think this album in particular is one for me that I just find thoroughly enjoyable. So I really wanted this to be in the top 15. They're all great players, they're all great singers, as I mentioned. They do all contribute vocally, great songwriters, and I've not even mentioned the production. I mean, my word, the production. These guys were known for, certainly with later albums that I'll get into, perhaps some of the videos, their studio trickery and experimentation, the stuff that they were doing at Strawberry was just completely on another level. So they were absolutely cutting edge in that regard. So yeah, a doff of the cap certainly here to 10cc. Great record, really enjoy it. Even the origins of the band title is very sort of cheeky as well, and very subversive in getting that one under the radar. So yeah, great stuff. Very, very enjoyable. Very pleased to have that one in the collection. Okay, right. So now we're staying in the UK, but we're moving over to Scotland, and we've got an artist here who I would say, to be quite honest, I need to explore a little bit more, because I've loved everything that I've heard by this artist, but I've only got this one record in my collection. It is a record that I've owned for a long, long time, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Definitely a Sunday afternoon record for me when I'm in the mood for it, fitting in very nicely along the likes of, Tim Buckley, and in particular one Mr. Nick Drake. And the reason that I mention Nick Drake in particular is because there is a connection with Nick Drake and this artist and this album. So, as I say, coming from Scotland, we've got here John Martyn with the record Solid Air. So you can see part of the Island Live collection. So it's on Ireland. So, yeah, just an absolutely lovely, lovely album. Great guitarist. I love his voice. Love what he does with it, the way he mixes it up, the way that he phrases his vocal melodies. I just find really, really, really enchanting at times. Like he sings and phrases things in a way that I just wouldn't think would actually work, but they do. There's just this really, it's almost like he's singing like a counter melody to what he's playing on the guitar, which I find really fascinating how he pulls that off. And it never sounds forced or laboured, it just sounds really natural. So the reason that I mentioned Solid Air, Nick Drake, is because the title, the song, Solid Air on here, which is my favourite on the album, it's a stupendous song, was actually written in tribute to Nick Drake. Nick Drake and John Martyn were friends, and my understanding is that Nick Drake, as we all know, very sadly passed away at the age of 26. He passed away, I beg your pardon, so sorry, passed away about 18 months after this record was released. So yeah, Solid Air is John Martyn's tribute to the great Nick Drake. So that is a brilliant, brilliant song. We've also got on here Danny Thompson playing double bass. Dave Pegg is on bass here as well, from Fairport Convention. He'd also played with Nick Drake. But it's just absolutely brilliant. Truly, truly is. Richard Thompson's credited on here as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lovely fusion of blues, jazz, folk, great stuff. So along with Solid Air, I do love the song I'd Rather Be the Devil. May You Never is great as well, Go Down Easy. And I'll mention as well The Man in the Station is one I particularly enjoy a lot. So there we go. Lovely album if you're not familiar with that. John Martyn, you're looking for some nice acoustic folky jazz blues, please check out Solid Air. Great stuff. Okay, so now we're heading over to the first, and this could be, will be a big clue, again for viewers who are really, really familiar with 1973 and the bountiful music it had to give the world. This is the first of two records that were on Tamla Motown in my own top 15. This record just blows my mind. All these records do in different ways. That's why they're here. But it's just the songcraft on this one for me. I just think it's just genius. The only reason that it's as kind of relatively low as it is just because there are albums above it that I feel on a more personal level in terms of they live in a different place inside me. And I think when you're doing these rankings, sometimes you need to start bringing in exterior reasons as to why you rank something the way that you do. And certainly, as again, when I get to the top three, top five, that's when your own emotions start to come into play. But make no mistake, as an achievement, as a record, it is just an absolutely, it's essential. It really, really is. I love this record so much, and it is Innovisions by Stevie Wonder. Just absolutely gorgeous album. It's another gatefold there for you who can try and get that in. Just this was just released during, I think, a period in Stevie Wonder's career where we all knew he was a genius from the off, but the genius is just in absolute. It's just in the flow. It like the just full flow pouring out. Just great album after great album at this point in his career. Amazing songs. It's got arguably my favourite ever Stevie song on here. Probably tied with maybe something more obvious like Superstition, but I absolutely I've always loved it from being a kid. He's Mr. Know-It-All. I just love that song so much. It's definitely my joint fave Stevie track. Don't You Worry About a Thing as well is on here as well, which I've always loved. I just love the the feel of it, what the song is conveying. It's got Higher Ground on here as well, which is just a brilliant song. Great funky sort of workout on that brilliant bass line. Jesus, Children of America, I love. Visions on side one. Living for the City is absolutely amazing, which always makes me think of the Spike Lee film Do the Right Thing, which is one of my favourite films of all time. Spike Lee, a huge Stevie Wonder fan, but yeah, Living for the City, absolutely brilliant song, that one, Too High. Honestly, every track on it is just outstandingly good. It really is. It's an essential album for me. I think everybody should try it, listen to it, and if you enjoy it and you ever see it on vinyl, then please do pick up a copy of it. It is one of Stevie Wonder's greatest achievements. It's a masterpiece for me. But I would say that, moving forward, I mean, these are all arguable masterpieces for the top 15, but these are records that just all shine in their own way. And this one in particular, I think I just have a lot of love and affection and admiration for it. So there's Innovisions there by the amazing, incomparable Stevie Wonder. And I'll just show you that there again inside, there we go. Okay. Right. If anyone heard a bit of a buzz there, I apologise for that. That was my phone there in the background buzzing off. So I don't know whether that's interfered there with the recording, but hopefully now that will stay quiet. I'll just move that there over there, and then hopefully it won't be vibrating on the table or anything like that. Okay. So yeah, I mentioned that was the first Tamla Motown release in my list for 1973. Here is the second. So, for all the wonder of the Stevie Wonder album, this record for me, it's got a completely different vibe to it, but it is also a masterpiece as well in what it's about, in terms of its declarations of love and the mood and the vibe of it and the musicality, and it has just got absolutely the greatest voice. I think for me, my favourite ever soul singer ever. His voice is just amazing. That's an understatement. It's a voice like no other. There's never going to be another like him. So let's get to showing the record. We've got Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye, and this album is just unbelievably good. Like it's going to be very difficult to even put into words just how good this album is, and I think that might be a scenario I've got for the others. Although I will try, because like I say, I just talk off the top of my head and talk from the heart. So a lot of the time I just end up waffling away. But yeah, I'm going to do my best to try to explain why I love these albums the way they do. So the reason I love this album so much is I just love the sound of it. I just think it's beautifully produced. The instrumentation again, it just sounds gorgeous. I think it's actually one of the things I've noticed here about 73 is that there are a lot of records here that I think sound great. Like they're actually records that within my own collection I think are amongst the best sounding that I've got, and one in particular that's coming up a little later is, I think, the definitive one that sounds arguably the best out of everything I've got. So yeah, I mean, this was produced by Marvin Gaye himself and Ed Townsend. Brilliant album from start to finish. The title track has to be discussed. It's just a classic. Beautiful chord progression. Marvin's voice on it. You know, the sort of the playfulness of it. You know, there's a bit of vulnerability to it. There's a bit of tenderness, but there's also like a lot of, obviously, it's Marvin, so there's a lot of like a sensuality to it as well. There's a confidence there to the voice, but then there's also, I wouldn't say like a nervousness or anything like that, but there is some fragility, I think, there in some way. It is there somewhere under the surface, but there's a lot of declarations of love and intent and that sort of thing, and it's just a really infectious record. The sound of it, it's just a brilliant album for me. Please don't stay. Sorry, once you go away. I love that as well, which follows on from Let's Get It On. Keep Getting It On, which closes side one, and then on side two, I absolutely love Distant Lover. I really love that song as well. And then it closes off with Just to Keep You Satisfied. So if you're in the mood for some really slinky, sensual soul music, proper pure soul music, sang by, for me, the greatest, the greatest singer in that genre. I mean, he's one of the greatest singers, full stop. Marvin Gaye. There will never be another. Then please do check out this album. So, I mean, I picked this up, I think, for about £4 or £5. I could not believe it when I found it. It was just in like one of these £5 bins in a record shop, and I was convinced, that was the record going to be scratched or unplayable. The record plays perfectly well. The record cover itself is a little beaten up, which might explain, as you can see, why I did manage to get it at that price. But my word, I was extremely happy to get that. That was many years ago when I picked that up. So yeah, another essential album. That one, Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On. Brilliant record. And again, the title track found a new audience. I feel a lot of commercial resurgence with its usage in the great film High Fidelity. So yeah, just wanted to mention that there as well, because I do tend to get a film reference into my videos every now and again. Okay, right. So we've gone from some really smooth soul music there with the likes of Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. We're getting right back into pure experimental territory now. I'd say in some ways this is probably the closest thing to Faust, which I showed a long time ago now, it seems. And that's another thing, if you're still with me here and you're watching, thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate that. So I read about this record once that somebody wrote that it sounds the way that the album looks like, which I would have to agree with that. It's a very out there record. It's definitely not the record that you're going to start again with this artist if you're trying to get into him, but it sounds incredible. Again, it's very cut and paste. These little sort of brief interludes, all segueing into each other. It's just a great achievement, and another genius, I would say, like Stevie, another multi-instrumentalist and producer in his own right, does his own thing. The genius flowing out of him. He'd had a landmark album for me the year before. So again, here we've got Todd Rundgren with A Wizard, a True Star. And as you can see there, that is some cover. It really is. It's very out there, as I mentioned. It sounds brilliant, as I've already said. His playing on it throughout, as you'd expect from Todd, and his arrangements in particular are just stunning. So, A Wizard, a True Star indeed. There's the gatefold for it inside. There we go. And yeah, it's interesting again with this one. I mean, I will choose favourite tracks. Oh, this one has got, there we go. Show you that. It's very hard to read there. It's the lyric sheet. I mean, this one has got songs on it, I would say. It does differ from Faust in that respect. In that, although these songs at times are only the briefest of, a minute or so, or a few seconds, released on Bearsville, I'm just taking the record out because it's a bit easier to read the tracks, because there is a lot, because it just sort of blends in. So, Yeah, that's something that I really do like on here, which is quite in keeping with, the fact I've just been talking about Marvin and Stevie, is there is like a bit of like a well, it's a medley that goes on here. Um, where on side two, so it starts off with Sometimes I Don't Know What to Feel, which is absolutely brilliant. Then Does Anybody Love You? But then it goes into this medley then of I'm So Proud, which is Curtis Mayfield. Ooh Baby Baby, then it goes into that. La La Means I Love You, which is a song I've always loved. Then it goes into Cool Jerk as well. That's part of the medley. So then that closes the medley off. So you've got like this sort of broken up into like four little bits there. And that's a really lovely passage of music on the record because other parts of it are just like super experimental. Just One Victory, though, at the end of the record is, I think, one of Todd's greatest songs. It sounds brilliant. It has got Thinky on here, hasn't it? Yeah, on side one, I think, which is probably more. Is it more well known than just one? Yeah, Zen Archer is. Yeah, Zen Archer is on here as well, which is excellent. That's a great song. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that I've said, that it's not. I wouldn't say like it's a song centric album, the way that Something Anything was from the year before, where it's got these, absolute gems on it like Hello It's Me and I Saw the Light. But for me, this is more just like a piece of artistry, like it's an artistic statement. I know you could say that about any record, but I think with this one, the idea of it is that you do listen to it in its entirety. You're not just going to cherry pick a couple of songs here and there. The best way for me to experience it is just to stick it on and play it. Yeah, I mean, International Feel that opens up the album, that's really woozy sound, and it's got like great use of effects and stuff on here. It's got synths and all kinds throughout the record. Just brilliant, clever instruments, in terms of usage. Very out there. Um, yeah, see if there's any others I've missed on there as well. Yeah, I think I've named all the ones that I really do like on it. Yeah, there's some bits on there that kind of like, oh, where did that come from? Sort of catches you, and it's very, the way like the use of channels as well. In the studio, things panning in and out, great stuff. It really does sort of wrap itself around you as an album, like a bit of a sensory overload in that way. But I love records like that. Records that you can just get really lost in and immersed in for the duration of the record. There's a lot of songs as well, I should say, on that. Given that that is a single vinyl, it's not a 2 LP like some of the other Todd albums were, like, Something Anything and Todd. Todd is just called Todd. That is a lot of music on that one record, but it doesn't diminish the sound, in my opinion, too much at all. Sounds really, really strong. So again, if you're looking for something a little bit out there, just look at the cover to give you an idea. If you're not sure, then please do check out A Wizard, a True Star. But again, it's not the first Todd album I would go to. If you want to get into him, I would say in that regard, I'll put that in later. I'll say in that regard, Something Anything is a great starting point. Or maybe the very first album that he did, Runt, as well. Just my opinion. So anybody else who maybe has an idea on where to get started with Todd, you might think A Wizard, a True Star is a perfect place to start. Do let me know in the comments. Rightio. Okay, so I think we might be. Are we in the top 5? Let me just check. Yes, we are. We are now in the top 5. Right, okay, so 10 albums down, 5 to go. So again, if you're with me, and I hope you've enjoyed this, thank you very much. So this was really, really tough. I do sound like a broken record now. I said this all the way through the 80s and now said it through the first few years, the 1970s, and you're probably thinking, yeah, we get it, we know it's really tough. But it is really tough. It's difficult when you're trying to rank them, and you have to bring all these different things into play. So what I would say about this top 5 is I love every single one of them for very different reasons. But my number 1 in the end was quite an easy one. My number 2, though, has trumped 3, 4, and 5 just because of the emotional connection that I've got with it, I would say. 3, 4, and 5, though, are just all absolutely amazing, with one of them in particular at number 3 being the best sounding album that I personally think I've got. But we're not at number 3 yet. Let's stick to number 5. So this is an artist who will and has, appeared throughout the 1970s. Brilliant album. I would have no complaints if people think, this should have been higher. It could even be their album of the year, but I think that could be said now about any of these, which I'm about to show. But at number 5, a man who needs no introduction whatsoever, we've got David Bowie with Aladdin Sane at number 5. So this was very tough. I did flip flop. I had him a bit higher at one point, and then I was looking at the others, and I just thought, nah, do you know what? These others that are there, I've probably gone back to them more over the years, and believe me, I've played Aladdin Sane a lot. So when I do get to these others, you will realise and think, yeah, I mean, I've played these albums many, 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 many times. So it just comes down to the finest of margins. But yeah, this is just a brilliant, brilliant Bowie album. I mean, this period of his career, the sort of the Ziggy era, with Hunky Dory Ziggy, Aladdin Sane, then Diamond Dogs to follow, and just his 70s output in general. The Berlin trilogy. What an artist! Just absolutely amazing. I don't need to talk on and on about Bowie. Plenty have done that before me and have done it a lot better. All I can tell you is that I just love the guy. I just think he's an amazing, amazing musician. Always came up with the goods. Well, certainly in the 1970s, arguably there were other parts of his career that, should we say, were a little bit hit and miss, perhaps. But I just think because he set the bar so high, late 60s, early 70s, then there was going to be at some point a bit of a tail off. But this is his classic period. This one for me. So yeah, coming in at number 5. Wow, let's actually trying to remember if I've got the lyrics in this one. No, I haven't, which is a shame. It says lyrics within there on the back, but I mean, this was like a copy that I picked up on my local flea market years ago. I mean, I was like about 14 or 15, I think, or something when I got this one, so it was a long time ago. But yeah, Driving Saturday, I have to mention Driving Saturday straight away. Always brings back lovely memories for me because a very, very good friend of mine in high school used to make me and my mates tapes of all the hip and happening music of the time. This would have been in the early mid 1990s, and his dad had an unbelievable music collection. He was a massive Bowie fan, his dad, and he would come in with these brilliant tapes for us of songs from the 70s and 80s, and he would always sign them off. On the card, he'd always sign them off as Twig the Wonder Kid. So whenever I listen to this album and Bobby starts singing about Twig the Wonder Kid, it always makes me think of my very good friend Daniel from high school. He was always into brilliant music, was Daniel. Great knowledge, same age as me, and I have him to thank, actually, when I think back to my high school years, for a lot of music that he introduced me to. Bowie wasn't one of them, but he did introduce me to a lot of other great stuff as well. So yeah, I always think of Danny when this record is playing. Aladdin Sane, the song itself, 1938 to 1970 question mark. I was going to read the full rendering out there for you, clocking in at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. But yeah, all the favourites on here. Panic in Detroit is always one I've loved. Cracked Actor. The Gene Genie, though, for me, is just like Bowie is rocking best. And yeah, I'll put something in. I'll just put a question out there for you of interest for you watching. Which song do you prefer? Do you prefer the Gene Genie by Bowie, or do you prefer Blockbuster by The Sweet with that iconic riff? Which one? And I think that was originally, I'm sure someone will correct me now, I hope I'm not wrong, was it originally like a Bo Diddley riff or something like that? Both The Sweet and Bowie, have appropriated and used to very effective, to a very, very effective extent, in terms of releasing classic material in their own right. Let's Spend the Night Together, of course, need to mention that's on here as well. A song that doesn't need any further elaborating from me, how famous it is. Stone's classic. But yeah, Lady Green Soul as well. What an album. Absolutely brilliant. But only at number 5 for me. Aladdin Sane, David Bowie. But yeah, we're talking the finest of margins now, everybody. We really, really are. Excuse me. Right, let's get myself composed again after that. Brilliant. So number 4, definitely my favourite album by this band, a band that I absolutely love so much. mind-blowingly good. I think Britain's greatest art rock group, glam rock, although obviously like T-Rex and other groups I adore in that sphere as well. But I just love these guys so much. This was the last album to feature Brian Eno before he parted company with the group. And I am of course talking about, and it is my choice of title card for this year, we have got For Your Pleasure by Roxy Music. Okay, so let's talk a little bit there about the cover art. So you can see there on the cover, that is the model Amanda Lear, and she's got a panther there on a leash. And then as we pan across, we can see there Brian Ferry waiting there, the chauffeur. There we go. So that is artwork that I think is as iconic as the album itself. That is a truly iconic photograph that Roxy always had for me. Extremely visually appealing, stunning album covers and backs, but that one I think is the best, and I do think this is the best Roxy album. I love the inside here as well. I love these photographs here of the group. So good. Look at that. Absolutely brilliant. Love that picture there of Eno at the end. He just looks like he's from another planet, doesn't he? You could see why him and Bowie would have ended up having a conversation at some point, wouldn't you, them two? I mean, they are just completely from another world. Ferry in the middle, doing his Elvis look, just looks brilliant. They just look so cool. Great band, great art throughout there. Right, this one here, yeah, again, just a plain one. Always have to remind myself. So yeah, favourite tracks on this one. So yeah, I mean, For Your Pleasure, just a brilliant album, this one, honestly, so good. The best song by them, in my opinion, certainly up there. Best song on this album is In Every Dream, Oh My Heartache. Classic Roxy. I won't give away the spoiler of the subject, the lyrical themes of the subject if you're not familiar with the song. Pretty self-explanatory if you go and give it a listen. I think that's definitely had exposure as well in more recent years. I think it's cropped up on a couple of films and TV programs and stuff like that. For Your Pleasure, the actual song, the title track, I love. Amazing opener in Do the Strand. Great song. I love Do the Strand. Brilliant. Strictly Confidential, The Bogus Man, Editions of You. Yeah, everyone on here, Beauty Queen. I've just named a lot pretty much. Grey Lagoons as well. Yeah, honestly. That for me is an absolutely superb album, that. And I was, to and fro where to put Roxy and Bowie. They were kind of fighting it out there a little bit, but I did give this one over, put it over Lad Insane, just because I've listened to this one so many times. I mean, like I said, I've done with all of them, but I think it's just how this sounds for me. It's just so clever and fascinating to me, the record, and the use of sounds on it. Again, I think Eno's contribution here. If you're gonna leave a band, then you want to leave on a high, don't you? Ideally, I don't think he could have left on a greater high than being on For Your Pleasure. Again, just my opinion, as is everything here. But yeah, stunning album, that one, by one of, I think, Britain's greatest ever acts. Full stop. Great stuff. Okay, so now we're into the top three. Right. So this is the record here that, I mean, I might be making a huge assumption now, but would probably or most likely be everybody's number one, or would be certainly in the top 2-3. The reason it's not my number one is because I just don't have the emotional relationship with it that I do the other two. So before people are outraged or anything like that, I have to go with my instincts. I have to be honest with myself. I have to be honest with my relationship with these albums. This is an absolutely outstanding achievement. There's nothing else like it. It is the best sounding album in my collection. I'm almost 100% sure of that. And I've got a lot of albums, but this one in particular, the engineering of it, the mastering, in terms of, just how it was produced at the time it was created, the way it's played, everything about it, the vibe of it, it is utterly unique. And with that in mind, it only was held off number one by the fact that two other records above it, Rock Harder, and I do love my rock when I'm in the mood for it, and like I said, just that emotional connection. Certainly with number two, because I was so excited when I discovered that album, and number one is just one that lives in here. So okay, let's get to it. So number three, and I'm not going to talk about this one too long because again, it's been done to death, this album, quite rightly, but it is The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd is my number three. And I hope that you're all still sitting there in your seats and you're not too you're not too upset with me about that. I've got to be honest, everybody. It is an incredible album. We know that. You know, it's. I mean, even if this is music, there might be people sitting there thinking, "Well, I'm not really a fan of Pink Floyd. You know, don't get what the fuss is about, etc., etc." That is absolutely fine. I totally get that. Music is wholly subjective, and there is no one person out there who can say to somebody else, "You should like this thing." But all I would say about this album is that even if this isn't your cup of tea, I don't think that the quality of the artistry, the musicianship, the vibe that's been created, the songcraft, the sound of the thing, like I say, the engineering work that's gone into it, the production. I just think anybody who would be quibbling over that, even if it's not their thing, for me, I just wouldn't. I would have to hear a really strong argument to the contrary as to why somebody couldn't at least even give this some credit from from an audio point of view, from a technical perspective, whatever you want to say. It is a very special record, there's no doubt about it. Played it so many times. I'll be honest, most of the time when I've played it was when I was a lot younger and I've been out for the night. There we go, just the black, blue, sorry, I should say, yeah, dark blue inner. When I've got home from the pub and I just felt like crashing out at home, or, I've been clubbing and that'd be a record that I just stick on and pass out to, pretty much. And then I'd listen to it at other times as well when I got a bit older, now that a lot of my partying days are behind me, I just sit at a weekend at sometimes and just stick it on. My father-in-law is a humongous fan of this album as well. We've had many, many conversations about the album. All the lyrics on here are by Roger Waters as well. Features some of his, compositionally great songs. But, Gilmour, Mason, Wright, Waters, all four of them are just, it's just an absolutely, it's pretty much coming up to get, to being a flawless record. And maybe that's why I've just kind of rooted for those two above it, because they are flawed, basically, the two above it. And I think maybe sometimes I gravitate more to the flaws of things. Maybe I find that a little bit more fascinating. But, the engineering that I've been waxing lyrical about here is by Alan Parsons, who has, helped to make this absolute monolith, sound as wonderful as it does. But yeah, favourites, I mean, every single one of them: Breathe, Time, Money. Yeah, Money's probably my favourite if push comes to shove. Probably a very obvious choice, but I do love it. Us and Them, Brain Damage, Eclipse. You've got the Breathe reprise, Tomato on here as well. In terms of how people wish to say the word, I say reprise, is usually how I pronounce it. So yeah, it's just stunning. It really, really is, and it does sound incredible. I mean, every time I put it on and give it a spin, I am bowled over by just how well it's been recorded and put together. And I don't claim to be the biggest Pink Floyd fan in the world. I'm not an expert when it comes to Pink Floyd and prog music in general, but I am. I know what I like, and what I do like I love, and that is an album that I love. But these two here now that I'm getting to are just, again, it's all levels and different things come into play when you're doing a ranking vid. It's not always just about the music. You need to think about your own relationship with the artistry. So I hope I've made that clear for anyone who's now watching, and hopefully when you come to comment, if you do, about it, you can please bear that explanation in mind. So thank you very much. Okay, so the last two. So yeah, this album here now, number two. These two both rock, by the way, but the first one, the number one, rocks harder and better, arguably, for me. Yeah, maybe not better, rocks differently. So with this album, it was one of them where I just listened to it once, and I just couldn't stop listening to it. Like I honestly just could not listen to anything other than this album for about, do you know, it must have been like nearly a year and a half. And I mean, I'm on about like really, because I'm very much like that. When I get into something, I'm just over and over and over and over again, you know, absorbing it, absorbing it, absorbing it. And this album was like, I just didn't want to listen to anything other than it. And I think that's why it's gone up to number two. Because even now when I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, I just can't wait to play it again. I love it so much. So coming out of Glasgow, we've got the sensational Alex Harvey band with Next. Honestly, this album, I just love it front to back. There isn't a single song on here that I don't like. It's just this amazing, amazing, weird mashup of hard rock, cabaret. There is a little bit of prog on it, actually, I would say, with my favourite track on the album, funnily enough, and I've just been saying about, because I do think there's prog elements to it. I'll get to that in a sec. Some of it is just absolutely completely out there, like just gonzo, can't even really describe it. Then you get this amazing, again, because that's been a bit of a theme in this video, a bit of a doo-woppy conclusion to the album, taking us right back, you know, to the 50s era. And a bit of a nod to Alex's roots, which I'll get into in a sec as well. So yeah, let's just look at the artwork first. So yeah, this is number two. So there's Mr. Harvey in the trademark stripy jumper. Love his voice, love everything about him. Brilliant photographs here. I love that one of him there in particular because you just never ever saw him looking like that. I mean, he's got the hair all, you know, brill creamed up there, looking very 50s actually. So in contrast to how you usually see Alex with the, you know, the flowing locks. Got Zal Clemenson here, who, you know, very quickly for me just became a guitar hero of mine. Love his playing, absolutely brilliant, brilliant guy. Just love the look as well and everything. After, you know, seeing him originally on the All Grey Whistle Test doing Delilah and just thinking at the time it was just a bit, not throwaway, but I just thought, yeah, you know, that's good. But it was only when I really started digging into Alex Harvey, and now, to be honest, they are like one of my favourite bands. Like, they're so good, and I just think I've got a bit of a loyalty there in my heart as well. You know, with my dad and my family. You know, from my dad's side, all coming from Glasgow as well. Maybe that's part of it as well. Sometimes, you know, your roots come into play a bit. Got Ted McKenna here on percussion and backing vocals. Chris Glenn there on bass and backing vocals. He had quite a look within the band. I mean, they all did. And then you've got Hugh McKenna there as well on electric piano, organ, grand piano, and backing vocals. So the first thing to say, they are a sensational band. I really believe that. They back Alex up unbelievably well. They are all so technically gifted, brilliant on their musicians, the sounds they're coming up with. Alex's voice itself is just a joy to behold, singing in that Scottish accent, really gruff, brilliant, brilliant voice that he's got. But he can certainly hold a tune. He's quite a powerhouse, really. So let's get to next the songs. That's Jacques Brel's song, and I've heard it done by Scott Walker and Sensational Alex Harvey Band. I love Scott Walker, but that version does not come anywhere, just does not come close to the version here by Alex Harvey. This for me of that song next that I've heard is the definitive version of it. It's incredible, brilliantly done. The drama in it, the tension, the delivery of the lyrics, the whole story, the way it's done, unbelievable. It kicks off with Swamp Snake, which is just this glorious rocker. Love the guitar playing in that. But then I have to get to my favourite song on the album. This was the song that blew my socks off when I heard it. Made me an instant Alex Harvey convert. Had to go away and start buying everything that I could get my hands on. And that is Faith Healer, which is the third track. 7 minutes, 21 seconds, the build-up of it. Wow, just thinking about it now, like taking myself back to the first time I heard that song, I was like, oh wow, like this is just so good. And please, if anybody, you know, still watching the video now and you don't know who these are, please just go and check out Faith Healer by the Sensational Alex Harvey Band. Please let me know if you enjoy it as much as I did. I was just an instant, I was just there. I was like, yeah, I want to hear more of this stuff. It was incredible. Love the lyrics of it. Again, it's just so dramatic sounding. Guitar sound really metallic on it. Great percussion. Just everything about the song is perfect. And then you get side two then, because Faith Healer ends side one, then Giddy Up a Ding Dong completely changes the vibe when you flip the record over. But then you get Next, which I've already spoken about. Vambo is excellent as well. And then you get another cracking song, The Last of the Teenage Idols, which is in 3 parts. That is a total epic. And going back to what I said a little earlier, it does end with like this sort of very doo-woppy outro to it. And I believe that was in reference to the fact that Alex Harvey did actually win. He genuinely won a Teenage Idol competition in the 1950s, which is where the title comes from, The Last of the Teenage Idols. So my understanding was that Alex Harvey in the earlier part of his career was like marketed as being Scotland's answer to Tommy Steele. So he did become like a teen idol, and then he shows up years later in the early 70s as this sort of very grizzled, very sort of tough rocker, very much against and a huge departure away from what he had once been. But I do think that song is like a nod back to Alex's roots, which I just really respect and really admire. And again, this young band here behind him that he assembled, because Alex was a good bit older than his sensational band. He led them, and this group just went on to do extraordinary things under his leadership. So yeah, great album, love it to bits. Number 2 might not sound as sonically perfect and flawless as Dark Side of the Moon, but this is just an album that I love to bits. Loved playing it all that time. I don't, hammer it as excessively as I once did, but it's in here, and every time I put it on, it makes me smile. There isn't a song that I don't like on it. I mean, Gangbang as well on it, I absolutely love. It's a bit of a saucy kind of up tempo, bluesy sort of rocker as well, with kind of cabaret influences to it. So yeah, great stuff. Next, Sensational Alex Harvey Band. Right, okay. So that's that one. Right, I'm not sure how we're doing on time here, but hopefully it's not too much over an hour. We'll wait and see. So here we go, everybody. Number 1 for 1973. It had to be this one for me. It's just such a powerful album. Big clue. Didn't mean to do that, but yeah, and it's very raw. There we go. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Raw Power, Iggy and the Stooges, is my number 1 for 1973. I love everything about this album. I love the front cover art. That's a Mick Rock portrait, I believe. One of the best photographs ever taken of Iggy. I love the back. I just love everything about it. I love the rendering of the name. I love the title. It does what it says on the tin. Every track on it is just absolutely sublime. I love the roughness of it. I love the rawness. I love the power. It just makes me want to shake and shimmy, and I just lose myself in the sheer rocking power of it. I love it so much. Had to be number 1 for me, just because I find the flaws of it to be really interesting and quite addictive in that way. I just think it's a truly wonderful rock album from the early 70s. Definitely one of my favourite albums of all time. So one of the things that I will say, I will be very interested to know in the comments, is whether people prefer this mix of the record, those who are familiar with it, which was done by none other than David Bowie. So again, having a very prolific year with working on this with Iggy, and coming up with not only just Lad Insane that was in my picks there, but also Pin-Ups as well, which I do have on vinyl but didn't make it into my top 15. So I wondered if people prefer the Bowie mix of this album or the Iggy mix, which came many years later. So please do let me know in the comments which you prefer and why. I prefer the Bowie mix personally. I find the Iggy one a little bit too compressed, there's just something a little bit off about it. It might be just because I'm more familiar, or much more familiar, with Bowie's version. So yeah, let's get to this band. So we got the Ashtons here, Scott and Ron, bass and vocals and drums between them. You've got the awesome James Williamson on guitars. I mean, he shines on this one big time. And then you've got, the one and the only Iggy Pop on vocals. So I'm going to have to just name every track as a favourite, because I just love the album so much. But my favourite above them all, I absolutely love Shake Appeal. I truly do. Great song. This incessant riff in it all the way through. I never get tired of hearing that riff. It just, like I say, it makes you want to dance. It just gets the blood going. Search and Destroy, one of the greatest album openers of all time. Just gets you straight in there. You know, great lyrics on that one. It just takes you straight into it. Like, what is this? Like, where is this album going? It sounds dangerous. It sounds like, you know, Iggy's on the prowl. You know, almost like, you know, like a very animalistic sort of feel to the record right from the off. Gimme Danger, excuse me, is just fantastic. Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, and then Penetration, I have to mention, that slows things down a little bit. Got, you know, some really lovely instrumentation on that one. And then side two, Raw Power, I Need Somebody, Shake Peel, the aforementioned, and Death Trip to finish. What an album. I think that's an essential record, that, for anyone into their rock music. Again, though, if you're not a fan of Iggy and the Stooges, you know, please let me know. If you don't mind, let me know, you know, your reasons for that. But for anybody who wants to give this a try, and you've not maybe heard it before, the three I would ask you to listen to are Search and Destroy, Gimme Danger, and Shake Peel. Listen to those three, and if you do, let me know how you get on with it. But yeah, that is my number one for 1973, Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges. Sublime album. Okay then, so that is me done for 1973. So I just want to say thank you so much indeed for tuning in and for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. Everybody who tunes in takes the time to watch, leave comments. It's amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed building up this channel since launching it earlier in the year, and I just want to thank you all for being here, whether you're new or whether you're a person that's been watching me now for a while. So if you did enjoy what I've done today, I would really appreciate it if you could please give me a like, you know, give me a thumbs up. And perhaps if you're interested in learning more about what I do and the music I'm into, and you are new to the channel, then please do consider subscribing to the Vinyl Sanctuary and joining me in taking refuge in records. So if you choose to do that, I would appreciate it. And please do remember to click that notification bell just so that you don't miss any of my future content landing. And yeah, as I mentioned before, if you've yet to see my videos that I've done already on the channel, please do go and have a look. Go and see if there's anything that piques your interest, and let me know how you find them. But I will be back again soon. I have got 1974 to look at next, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm sure that'll be another strong year with plenty of great albums to talk about. But until then, I look forward to seeing what your picks are for 1973. Please do let me know what you made of the year. Let me know what you made of my top 15 there as well. But until then, bye for now.